What you're looking at is the very beginning of my small engine hobby, sort of. Now this really is the first piece of equipment that I picked up using a free website. Now that was well over 10 years ago, and unfortunately time has not been kind to it. After having it for a few years, I sold it to a good friend who used it for a few seasons before it finally gave up the ghost and they gave it back to me. This got me thinking, how this entire hobby started with this very piece of equipment and how it's gotten me to where I am now. In today's video, we're going to look at this Craftsman leaf blower. Now this one I found for free using a website where people give away items just like this one. Now I've already made a video about this leaf blower, and if you want to see that video, there should be a link to it at the top of the screen or at the end of the video. And I'm just going to use the video as a background while I talk about this very special leaf blower. But why is this one so special? Because it's the first of many items I would pick up, fix, and sell for a profit. I don't remember the exact year, but it was a long time ago. I've been telling everyone at work to look at my two favorite websites to find free items, but to be honest, at that point, I hadn't been all that successful at picking anything up. What would happen is that I would always get there at the location too late. That's when I realized timing was everything. Now, at the time, I would have been using my phone and not my computer, so that meant I was using their app. I think it was the weekend and I'd just gotten home from work. I was searching around and saw an ad for a free blower. Luckily, it included a few pictures of it on the curb by the mailbox, and the address was only 2 miles away from me. The best part was that it had only been posted in the last 15 minutes, so the chances of a successful pick was extremely high. So I jumped into the truck, drove safely down the street, and was able to get my very first free piece of lawn equipment. I just didn't realize that this was the beginning of something very unexpected. What I mean by that was my experience working on this very blower got my interest going about working on small engines. I'm not sure exactly what happened that caused this feeling, but I didn't question it. What I do remember happening was that I used the information given in the ad to help diagnose the issue, started to take it apart, and found the problem. The only good part was that I didn't have to deal with the carb or the fuel lines, and I was able to get it going again in no time and for almost nothing. So why was I so happy that it didn't have a carb issue? Because at that time, I knew absolutely zero about how carbs worked. So if I had to deal with a carb issue, there was a good chance that I wasn't going to get it working again, at least the way it was supposed to. So that fact helped me to feel somewhat accomplished, at least enough to continue finding and fixing stuff. The same goes for the fuel lines. On this particular model, if you need to change the fuel lines, it requires the entire blower to be taken apart, which isn't a big deal now, but back then, I would have had a very tough time doing it. It would have taken quite a bit of researching online to find a video showing enough steps to figure out how to do it, at least with some success. Like I said earlier, I was able to get it going again and used it as my main leaf blower for a few years. Now back then, I didn't do any big leaf jobs. I mainly cleaned out the garage and moved the leaves around so they weren't in the driveway anymore. I never really used it for a long period of time. One of the biggest reasons was because it's quite heavy, and the second was that I didn't have an easy way to pick up the leaves. Now that would have to wait until I got my leaf vacuum. However, in the time I had this blower, I was able to pick up other items as well as a few other leaf blowers. This one though was always my favorite, and I was happy to have had the experience it offered to me. Well, about 3 or 4 years go by and a good friend needed a blower, so I offered them this one, which they gladly accepted. Now I'm not sure why I gave it away. I knew it meant a lot to me for reasons I'll explain here in a bit, but I knew they were going to take good care of it. However, this was not only a good fixing experience for me, but a bad tuning experience for me as well. So when tuning a carb, it's not about just getting to the max engine speed. Now this is not a race car on a dyno trying to make 1,000 or 2,000 horsepower. It's trying to make sure you make that power reliably. And when I was tuning this carb years ago, I made the mistake of going for the max output regardless of what happens to the engine. And unfortunately, while my friend was using it on the second season they had it, they said it just started getting slower and slower until it stopped and wouldn't start again. Unfortunately, it's a pretty good giveaway that it was losing engine compression, and unless they had a weak oil to fuel mixture, it meant that my tuning for max output allowed the engine to run too hot and it destroyed the piston rings. Now when I got it back from them, I immediately pulled on the rope and confirmed that it was extremely easy to pull on, which meant the compression was very low. Of course, checking with a good compression tester would be the better way to confirm that the engine had low compression. If you didn't know, gasoline engines need to compress the air-fuel mixture for them to work correctly, and if it's not compressing the mixture enough, it either won't have a lot of power or it won't start at all. So why was this blower so important to me? Well, that's pretty easy. As a younger person, I was always interested in how automobiles worked, specifically sports cars, but any car would do. I was always interested on their design and their execution because engines are all basically the same, except certain brands, models, and even trim levels had engines that worked differently from each other. Some cars are large displacement naturally aspirated with push rods that inhaled gallons of gasoline, while others were tiny engines with little turbos or superchargers that sipped on gasoline. I soon realized I had to know how stuff worked, otherwise what good was I? I know that might sound strange to others, but to me, this was normal. Unfortunately, after years of wrenching on cars and thousands of dollars, not including the time invested working and enjoying cars, I finally had to stop and started focusing on my job. Waking up before sunrise, coming home and crashing on the couch, this real job also took away all my weekends and holidays, so I became somewhat bitter having lost my passion and I needed some sort of a release. I'm pretty sure you can probably figure out the rest of the story. Now, I couldn't afford to spend tons of time because of work, and I couldn't spend thousands of dollars either, but once I found small engines, I didn't need that much time, only an hour or so to fix stuff, and the parts weren't that expensive, typically less than $20 for carbs, fuel lines, or filters. So now I could get my fix of figuring out problems with engines in less time with hardly any money and still get that satisfaction I was looking for. Aside from my job, I was finally able to find something personally rewarding again. It made me feel like I was 27 years old again, and the best part was that I could sell the stuff I was finding for free and make a few dollars for my time. I don't see how this could go wrong. Well, unfortunately, things don't always go the way we plan them to, and I've had to deal with several hurdles, but I'm handling them the best I can. What can I say? This isn't a fairy tale. Now, would I change anything? Oh yes, I would change a few certain aspects of this whole experience, but in general, nah. It's worked out very well for me, and I feel as though it can only get better from here. Of course, I'm not including any outside forces or acts of nature that would affect all of us, but you get the idea. Now, I do have plans on working on this blower in an upcoming video. I plan on taking it apart and getting an idea of just how bad the damage really is and seeing if the spark plug might be the issue which is keeping it from working, which is something I only realized once I was editing this video. Who knows, maybe I can get it working sooner than later. So my question is there a piece of equipment that means a lot to you? It could be something from a family member or a close friend that you would never give away until the final day. As sappy as it sounds, yes, I do have one, and no, I'm never going to give it away again. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.